We spend much of our lives trying to escape pain. We label it as bad, broken, something to fix or avoid. But what if that's the very reason we stay stuck? What if pain isn't the enemy, but the signal, the whisper, the crack in the illusion of who we thought we were? We've been taught to see suffering as failure, as proof that we're doing something wrong, that life is punishing us. But this perception keeps us locked in loops of shame, of fear, of pretending. The truth is, your wound is not a curse. It is a call. In our culture of constant striving, we glorify healing as a destination, a future version of ourselves that is finally free of scars. But healing, real healing, begins the moment we stop trying to escape and start listening. The wound holds the wisdom, not because it should have happened, not because the pain was just, but because within every fracture lies the possibility of light coming through. Leonard Cohen once said, "There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in." What if we stopped plastering over the cracks and started honoring what they reveal? This shift requires a radical reframe, not just mentally, but energetically. It means reorienting how we interpret life events, not as random chaos or karmic debt, but as sacred coded messages. In the quantum worldview, everything is vibration. Nothing is separate. Our wounds, emotional, physical, spiritual, are frequencies of unprocessed energy calling us home. They are not barriers to our evolution. They are the portals. Every ache, every heartbreak, every sleepless night has a story to tell. And if we dare to listen, we begin to reclaim the parts of ourselves we exiled in the name of survival. Let's ask something honest. Where in your life are you still fighting the pain rather than feeling it? Where are you patching over the wound with productivity or performance or perfection? We live in a society that rewards avoidance, applauds strength over softness, and confuses numbing with healing. But numbness isn't peace, it's the absence of presence. And presence is the only place transformation lives. The journey from wound to wisdom does not start with answers. It begins with surrender. With sitting in the rawness of "I don't know" and letting that honesty burn away what no longer fits. It's not about immediately fixing, it's about witnessing. Imagine how different your life would be if you gave yourself permission to be exactly where you are without labeling it wrong. This moment, this breath, is the only place where change can occur. The past holds pain, yes, but it also holds keys. Not just to what hurt you, but to what shaped you. And the paradox is, the more we lean into those broken places, the more we discover that we are not broken, we are becoming. Because here's the secret. Your wound is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of your awakening. Just like a seed must crack open before it can sprout, so must the self fracture before it can expand. Pain is the pressure that cracks the shell of limitation. So the next time you feel triggered, shattered, overwhelmed, pause. Ask, what is this trying to teach me about who I am not? Because every emotional wound peels away an identity you were never meant to wear. Every loss makes room for what is more real, and what is real is always more whole. From this view, life is not happening to you. It's happening through you, for you. The wound doesn't define your worth. It defines the doorway. And the most courageous thing you can do is walk through it. Not to escape the pain, but to meet the version of you waiting on the other side. In the silent, invisible fabric of existence, there's something remarkable always at play. A quantum field humming with potential, waiting for you to tune in. It doesn't respond to your words. It doesn't obey your plans. It doesn't care how hard you hustle. What it listens to, what it reflects, is your frequency. We are taught to manifest with effort. Dream big, work harder, push through. But the universe doesn't operate on force, it operates on resonance. This is not about believing in magic, it's about understanding vibration. Everything is energy, and energy responds to coherence. The quantum field, a sea of possibilities, organizes itself not around your desires, but around your signal, Your mood, your beliefs, your subconscious narratives, they're broadcasting constantly. And what you experience is a direct echo of that signal. Imagine walking into a room with a radio tuned to static. No matter how loudly you shout, the music won't come through. But the moment you adjust the dial, the song becomes clear. The song was always there. You just weren't aligned with the frequency. Life is the same. Your future, your peace, your love, they're already present in the field. The question is, are you tuned to receive them? This concept isn't esoteric fantasy. It's grounded in quantum observation. The observer effect tells us that the act of observation influences the outcome. That means your attention isn't passive. It's participatory. You're not a spectator in your life. You're a collaborator with the cosmos. Your inner state sculpts the outer form. Think about how often we chase results without checking the signal we're emitting. We want love while radiating insecurity. We want abundance while vibrating scarcity. We want peace while carrying inner wars. The field doesn't judge, it's not moral. It simply reflects. Not what you wish for, but what you are. And this is where the real work begins. Not in changing the world, but in becoming energetically congruent with the world you wish to live in. Ask yourself, what story is your nervous system still telling? What unresolved beliefs are you looping in your emotional body? Because your biology is not separate from your energy. Every thought, every emotion creates biochemical shifts that influence your frequency. When your thoughts contradict your subconscious beliefs, the field gets static. The signal gets muddy. True alignment is not pretending to be happy. It's the willingness to be radically honest with where you are and to choose again. To shift, not by force, but through awareness. Imagine waking up tomorrow and choosing, not to fix your life, but to feel into a new signal. What would it be like to walk through your day radiating worthiness? Not to prove it, but to inhabit it. What would change if you approached each encounter from a place of enoughness? The field doesn't care if you learned to feel unworthy as a child. It doesn't care who left or what failed. It responds to your now. And your now can be recalibrated. You are the signal. You are the radio tower. And your job isn't to scream louder. It's to attune more clearly. In practical terms, this means your healing journey must include your energetic hygiene. It's not enough to think positive. You must feel safe. You must feel deserving. You must clear the interference of old patterns. That's why trauma healing, inner child work, shadow integration, these aren't luxuries. They're spiritual maintenance. They're what clear your signal so the quantum field can reflect back the reality you are ready for. Here's the empowering truth. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are willing to become. And when you begin to vibrate in alignment with truth, joy, and presence, not as performance, but as an embodied reality, your external world begins to shift, not because you forced it, but because you finally matched its frequency. So the next time you wonder why something hasn't manifested, don't ask, what do I need to do? Ask, who do I need to become? Not in the sense of adding more, but in shedding what no longer resonates. Because you're not here to chase the dream, you're here to collapse into the vibration where the dream already exists. You've been told to get over it, to let it go, to not dwell on the past. But the truth is, your pain isn't asking you to move on, it's asking you to move in, to move deeper. Trauma is not just a memory stored in your mind, it's a vibration held in your body, a residue of a moment you didn't know how to process. And until you turn toward it with presence, it will echo through your life in disguised forms. Anxiety, perfectionism, self-sabotage, chronic fatigue, emotional shutdown. But here's the radical shift. Your trauma is not your enemy. It's your teacher. This isn't to romanticize suffering. It's not to say everything happens for a reason in a dismissive way. It's to say that everything that happened, no matter how unfair, painful, or unbearable, contains an invitation to remember who you truly are underneath the survival response. The wound is a messenger, and its message is always the same: come home. Triggers are not signs you're broken. They are signs you're being shown where you have abandoned yourself. Every emotional reaction, whether it's anger, jealousy, panic, or shame, is a flare from your inner world asking for attention. Not judgment, not suppression, but attention. And when you answer the call with presence, something miraculous happens. The emotion transforms into information. Your sadness becomes a map. Your fear becomes a doorway. Your guilt becomes a mirror. We must learn to see the wound not as a defect, but as encoded wisdom. When you were a child, your system created brilliant adaptations to survive. You learned how to disconnect from your feelings to stay safe. You learned how to people please to avoid abandonment. You learned how to numb so the pain wouldn't destroy you. These weren't mistakes, they were intelligence. But now, as an adult, the very patterns that once saved you are the ones keeping you from fully living. And healing is the process of updating your inner operating system. When we begin to hold space for our wounded parts without trying to fix them, they start to reveal their gifts. The abandoned child holds the key to creativity. The angry part holds the blueprint of boundaries. The anxious one knows how to perceive subtle energies. These parts are not obstacles to your growth. They are the path to your wisdom. And this is where quantum philosophy becomes deeply personal. In a quantum reality, the observer changes the observed. That means how you relate to your pain alters its impact. If you meet your trauma with shame or fear, it will stay contracted. If you meet it with compassion and curiosity, it begins to reorganize. Your attention becomes alchemy. Your love becomes the laboratory. Real-life example. Someone betrayed you. It shattered your sense of trust. Every relationship since then is filtered through that lens, expecting betrayal, fearing intimacy, preemptively shutting down. On the surface, you might blame your inability to connect on others, but underneath is an unprocessed grief, a fragment of you frozen in that moment of betrayal. When you finally sit with that part, grieve fully, and offer it the safety it never had, your frequency changes. Suddenly, you no longer attract or tolerate betrayal, not because you demanded it, but because you've healed the magnet within. This is not a one-time ritual. It is a way of life. Every day becomes an opportunity to transmute pain into power, reaction into revelation. The more we do this, the more coherent our energy becomes. And the more coherent we are, the clearer our signal in the quantum field. Ask yourself now, where have I mistaken coping for healing? Where am I still running from parts of me that are crying out to be held? Healing doesn't mean you never get triggered. It means you know what to do when you are. It means you stop blaming life and start listening to it. You stop fighting the wound and start harvesting its wisdom. Because wisdom isn't something you acquire, it's something you remember. And your pain is the breadcrumb trail leading you back to your essence. You don't need to bypass your wounds to become whole. You need to include them. You need to see them not as blocks on your path, but as the very path itself. There's a moment when you realize you've spent years chasing what you thought you lacked, only to find it was never meant to be chased. It was meant to be remembered. That love, that peace, that freedom you seek, it isn't out there waiting. It's within you, dormant, vibrating quietly beneath the static of who you were told to be. Manifestation is not magic, it's magnetism. And magnetism doesn't come from wanting, it comes from becoming. This is the shift that changes everything. You don't attract what you fantasize about. You attract what you embody. So many people visualize the life they want, say affirmations, make vision boards, and still feel stuck. Why? Because their body is still holding on to old stories. Their nervous system is still wired for survival. Their frequency is still tuned to fear, lack, or guilt. And so no matter how beautiful the desire, the field reflects the deeper vibration. This isn't to shame you, it's to liberate you. Because once you understand that your vibration creates your reality, You stop trying to fix the mirror and start adjusting the signal. This is inner alchemy, the art of becoming what you seek before it ever shows up. To become the frequency, you must first become honest. Where are you still performing worthiness? Where are you outsourcing your validation? Where do you wait for external proof before you let yourself feel joy, pride, love? You can't fake vibration. You can't outthink your subconscious, but you can choose, moment by moment, to regulate, to rewire, to reclaim. Let's say you want abundance. The question isn't, how do I make more money? It's, am I living in the frequency of sufficiency or scarcity? Do you feel supported by life? Do you believe your needs are met? Do you walk with the posture of someone who trusts the process or someone who's hustling for safety? Abundance is not a number, it's a state of coherence. When your body, mind, and spirit align in trust, you naturally magnetize opportunities, ideas, people, and flow. You want love? Beautiful. But are you vibrating at the level of self-abandonment or self-adoration? Do you betray yourself for connection? Do you shapeshift to avoid rejection? Or do you sit in your truth, even when it's uncomfortable? The frequency of love isn't just a feeling, it's an act of energetic integrity. When you become the love you seek, you stop settling, you stop begging, you start receiving. This is embodiment, not an aesthetic, not a spiritual costume, but a lived experience of congruence. You wake up and choose the frequency. You breathe into it. You anchor it into your cells. You move through the world as if it were already done, not to delude yourself, but to remind your body what truth feels like. And yes, this takes work. Not the kind of grinding work we're used to, but the subtle, sacred work of presence. Of catching yourself in old loops and gently choosing again. Of sitting with the discomfort that arises when you dare to feel good before the world gives you permission. It's a rebellion, really, to be joyful while still in process, to trust while still in the unknown, to be grateful before the evidence appears. But this is how the field works. It responds to your state, not your script. And when you align with the vibration of already, you collapse timelines. What used to take years begins to show up in weeks. Not because you forced it, but because you matched it. Ask yourself, what would it feel like to live as if it's already done? What would shift in your choices, your breath, your posture, your tone? Who would you stop chasing? What would you stop tolerating? You don't need to become someone else. You need to return to the version of you who always believed. Because becoming isn't about adding more. It's about removing distortion, stripping away the noise that told you were not enough, clearing the static so your true signal, your radiant magnetic self, can shine through. In this quantum dance, the universe doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to devotion, to the quiet, steady hum of someone who knows who they are, who trusts what's unfolding, who vibrates I am instead of I hope. This is how you become the frequency of what you seek. This is how you stop chasing and start creating. So, you've felt the wound. You've listened to its whisper. You've aligned your vibration. You've begun to embody a new reality. But now comes the real art, sustaining the shift. Not as a high, not as a weekend retreat glow, but as a living practice of co-creation. Because the universe isn't static, and neither are you. You are an evolving frequency, a living antenna, constantly receiving and transmitting energy. The question is not, how do I stay healed? It is, how do I respond when life tests the new frequency I've become? There will be moments when old patterns knock, not because you've failed, but because you've grown. The test is not punishment, it's calibration. Can you hold your truth when it's inconvenient? Can you choose presence when it would be easier to numb? Can you honor the new self, even when the world tries to pull you back into the old? This is where quantum living becomes a daily devotion. You begin to treat every moment, every trigger, every interaction as feedback. The world reflects you, and so your life becomes a mirror of your inner alignment. There's no need for guilt, just curiosity. No need for shame, just recalibration. Ask yourself daily, what am I broadcasting? Where's my attention flowing? Am I reacting from memory or responding from creation? This is the subtle pivot that makes all the difference. When you react, you recycle the past. When you respond with intention, you sculpt the future. And sustaining this requires rituals, not for the sake of superstition, but to anchor your frequency. Whether it's morning breathwork, journaling, silence, movement, mantras, whatever brings you into coherence, make it sacred. Not because you have to, because it reminds you who you really are. Life will still move unpredictably. People will still disappoint. Emotions will still rise. But you will no longer see these as setbacks. You'll see them as invitations, a broken plan, an opportunity to trust, a judgmental voice, a chance to stand in your knowing, an emotional spiral, a portal to deeper clarity. This is not about perfection. It's about presence. No one vibrates at love and abundance 24/7. But the difference between the unconscious life and the quantum life is awareness. In the quantum life, you know when you've dropped out of alignment, and you know how to come back. You know that your energy precedes your reality. You know that your inner world is the mold. You know that healing is not a destination, but a rhythm. You become the kind of person who doesn't just seek transformation, you embody it. And in doing so, you give others permission to do the same. Your coherence becomes contagious. Your presence becomes a lighthouse. Not because you're trying to fix anyone, but because your wholeness speaks louder than your words. And from this space, life begins to feel like a collaboration. You stop asking the universe for signs and start moving as if you are one. You stop waiting for doors and start becoming the key. You no longer need to manifest from desperation. You create from clarity. This is how the journey completes itself, by looping into a spiral of deeper knowing again and again. Each time life breaks your heart, you meet it with more openness. Each time you doubt, you find more trust. Each time you're tempted to abandon yourself, you remember you don't live from wound anymore. You live from wisdom. So take a breath. Let this moment be your altar. Ask gently, who am I becoming now? What version of me is ready to be lived? And how can I honor that with the next thought, the next word, the next step? Because you're not here to survive life. You're here to sculpt it, to co-create with it, to dance with the unknown as a conscious participant. You are not just a being in the universe. You are the universe, becoming aware of itself. You've journeyed from wound to wisdom, from fragmented stories to a unified presence. You've seen that pain isn't the end, it's the beginning. You've touched the quantum truth that the field doesn't respond to effort, but to embodiment. And now you stand at the edge of something new. Not a destination, but a rhythm. A way of walking through life awake. This journey isn't linear, it spirals. Each layer peels away not to reveal someone new, but to return you to someone ancient, the real you, beneath the conditioning. The healer, the creator, the observer, and the observed. So ask yourself now, gently but bravely, what part of me am I ready to meet with love? What truth am I finally ready to live? And what reality am I done waiting for? Because I'm ready to become it. You are the frequency, you are the force, and your life will rise to meet the signal you dare to send. If this spoke to something deep within you, don't let it fade. Share your reflection, comment below, subscribe to the journey. Because healing, like the quantum field, expands when it is witnessed. Welcome home.